Welcome back to Grimmett Coaching. In this module, we're going to talk about the business continuation. What do you have to do time in and time out in order to keep this cycle rolling and to create a system in which it doesn't involve your day in and day out participation? Once you've done a few rehabs and you've acquired multiple properties for investment in your buy and hold portfolio, you need to begin to establish a cycle of how you remove yourself from the process or drastically minimize the time that it takes you in order to continue to operate your business. And then we call this the business continuation segment. In this is, what do you do once you got that big check? From the last module, we talked about exiting and liquidating your property. Now we're talking about you've received that check, it went and it hit your bank account, but what do you do with it? Trust me, in the beginning what you would do is you'd spend all that money. Well, if you've ever listened to the tape or read the book, The Richest Man in Babylon, there's always a portion of that money that you need to set aside, or seed money, anything that you want to talk about, that money has babies and it begins to grow money for yourself. Because the idea of this stage of your development is for your passive income to equal or exceed your current expenses. That is where you're going to find true time freedom. And that is the goal that we're trying to accomplish right now, is how do I begin to own my day and have freedom of time? Most people are searching and striving for that freedom of time. That's why so many people are playing the lottery. They believe that if I hit the lottery and I win $1 million, then I can stop doing the things that I may not enjoy day in and day out, and I can begin to do the things that I really do enjoy. So we're just establishing our own lottery fund, shall we say. But in this cycle, what system or things do we need to have in place? Now here is what I use and do with my money. When we first establish some of the things that we are going to do with our income is establish, what is your giving going to be? What charity or your church do you want to pay first? That's my first check, my tithe check. I write that out, that's gone. The next check that I'm going to write out is my profit check, my profit first check. After reading a book called Profit First, he really helped me establish some of these particular ways that I wanted to run my business so that I could create a system time in and time out. Where do I put my money? Often we create a business and then we say, what type of marketing expenses do we have and business expenses, and then I'll pay myself a little bit if I can, and then if I can put some money back, I'll do that. And often you find if you run any business for any length of time, there is a very little paycheck that you pay yourself. And if at any time you pay employees, you pay this, you pay marketing, there's none left over. So I won't go into that tragic story, but what we do, profit first, pay your tithe or your charity, whatever you want to pay first, and then what is your profit, which I use 10%, and then yourself. Pay yourself a salary in the beginning, 50% of what comes through the door up into the first $250,000 of salary. That way you pay yourself a salary that is comparable to the business and activity that you're going to invest in it. So you got 50% going into your salary, 10% going to your profit. I set aside 10% for taxes and leaves me around 30% for operating the business. Now those are just rough numbers. You kind of got to shift them a little bit to fit what your needs are. You'll have an idea of what you'll need tax-wise when you get done with your business. But this now gives you a path to walk on. Also, what I've done is establish a semi-monthly payment for myself so that my wife and I can budget our expenses and get into a regular habit of a regular check. Even though real estate is very erratic and when you get paid, typically a 120-day cycle between paychecks, well, you need to establish for your family a consistency. So what I've done is I've hired an outside agency that established a paycheck for me, their payroll system that I use. And they send me a check once on the 1st, once on the 15th, and that works out perfectly for me. They take out all my taxes, they pay Social Security and all those items for me so that it's not something that I have to worry about. So when I get a check, I put it into my salary account, which then feeds my check that I receive every 2 months. As I get more and more money set aside in that account, 6 months to a year, then I can then begin to increase the amount that I pay myself a salary. So that I would recommend early on that you establish so that you create consistency in your home life, even though your business life may not have that same cycle. But I'm telling you, it will do wonders for your marriage when you do that. And once again, you'll thank me for that later. The other thing that you want to look at is your tax and business planning. Twice a year, I would recommend that you sit down with your CPA and your lawyer just to kind of make sure everything is going on track, you're structured properly, there's nothing that you need to change business structure-wise with your lawyer. And then your CPA is going to give you an estimate, how are your taxes doing? Are you setting enough aside? Are you going to have any surprises come that day in March when you need to file your taxes? So sit down with them. Also, your insurance agent wouldn't also be a bad person to sit down with. Make sure that you've established your retirement and savings plans, whether you're using insurance or you're using a Roth or IRA. But those are items that you want to constantly be in check with to make sure that what you have planned long range is on track. So remember, those are the people that you want to be in communication with in order to make sure that you are moving along in this business and it continues to serve you well. That pretty much wraps up our section on business continuation and how to establish a healthy income for yourself. Thank you.